So right now, someone in New York is layering up 3 coats just to walk to the subway in -11 Celsius, while someone in Miami is debating whether to hit the beach or the pool, same country, same morning. That's a 38-degree temperature difference from one coast to the other. And to put that in perspective, that's a bigger gap than the difference between a freezer and a warm summer day. But here's the part nobody's talking about. This isn't just a random cold snap. The data is showing that this split is getting more extreme by the day, and what's coming this weekend could completely reshape the rest of February. So today, we're going city by city across the entire country, breaking down exactly what's hitting your area tomorrow. And then I'm going to show you the one weather pattern behind all of this that even a lot of meteorologists are calling unusual. But first, let's start where the pain is worst right now. New York City. Tomorrow in New York, you're looking at a high of about 30 to 32 degrees Fahrenheit, which puts you basically right at the freezing line. Maybe a hair below 0 Celsius, and that's the warm part of the day. The overnight low is where it really gets nasty though. We're talking 12 to 18 degrees Fahrenheit, and that's the raw number before the wind chill even enters the conversation. Once you factor in those gusts rolling through Manhattan, and trust me, they're going to be relentless. It's going to feel like you walked into a walk-in freezer every time you step outside. So if you're heading out in the city tomorrow, do yourself a favor. Layers on layers. Cover your face. Because that wind chill is genuinely no joke. Now Philly, I see you over there thinking maybe you dodged this one. Nah, you're in the exact same boat. Highs around 30 to 32 Fahrenheit, with overnight lows crashing into the single digits and low teens. That cold air mass that's been parked over the Northeast like it owns the place isn't budging anytime soon. And both of these cities are going to feel every last degree of it tomorrow. Pittsburgh, you might actually have it rougher than all of them. That second Arctic blast is pushing temps to nearly 40 degrees below normal in parts of Pennsylvania. And that is still very much in play heading into the weekend. And for the Boston crew, you're staring down highs in the upper 20s, with wind chills potentially dipping into single digits. So think New York's forecast, but with that extra New England bite on top. DC, you're not off the hook either. Expect highs around 33 to 36 Fahrenheit, which puts you right on that annoying line where the sky can't decide if it wants to give you rain, sleet, or just raw cold misery. Now here's a quick question for everyone on the East Coast. Comment below and tell me, what's your go-to move when it gets this cold? Do you just hunker down, or are you still out there braving it? Alright, let's slide over to the Midwest now, because if you thought the Northeast had it bad, Chicago is getting straight up demolished by this cold front. Tomorrow, in the Windy City, and I mean the name really earns itself this week, highs are only going to crawl to about 16 to 23 degrees Fahrenheit. That's roughly -5 to -3 Celsius. Overnight, we're plunging to anywhere between 7 and 16 degrees Fahrenheit, possibly even lower in some pockets, which is the kind of cold that hurts your lungs when you breathe. And on top of that, there's a solid chance of light snow and some pretty nasty winds rolling through, which means visibility on the morning commute could go from fine to basically 0 in minutes. If you're driving in the Chicago metro area tomorrow morning, seriously, take it slow. Those snow squalls come out of nowhere, and they don't care if you're running late. They will shut down your visibility just like that. This is classic Alberta Clipper territory. Those systems that slide down out of Canada aren't headline-making blizzards, but they pack enough punch to absolutely wreck your commute if you're not ready. Detroit. You're right in the thick of it too. Expect highs around 18 to 25 Fahrenheit with lake effect snow bands that could dump a quick inch or two, especially on the east side of the metro. Minneapolis. I mean, you guys are basically in survival mode at this point. Highs barely cracking 10 degrees Fahrenheit with overnight lows that could dip below 0. So yeah, the freezer jokes write themselves. Now I know a lot of Midwesterners are rolling their eyes right now like, dude, it's February in Chicago. What did you expect? But hold on, because this next part is what makes this whole thing wild. By early next week, some of you could see temperatures rocket up 30 degrees or more in just 48 hours. We're talking sub-zero wind chills on Monday, flipping to the mid-40s or even low 50s by Wednesday. That kind of temperature whiplash is genuinely hard on your body. hard on the roads, hard on everything, and it's exactly what makes this winter pattern feel like it's got a personality disorder. All right, now let's do a complete 180 and head out west. Because honestly, it might as well be a different country over there. The contrast is that insane. Los Angeles tomorrow highs around 63 to 70 degrees Fahrenheit. Lows in the low 50s. Crystal clear skies. And the kind of day where you forget winter is even a thing that exists. If you're in LA right now, you're probably scrolling through this in a t-shirt wondering what all the fuss is about. And honestly, at 70 degrees in early February, I can't even be mad at you. San Francisco. You're looking at highs in the upper 50s to low 60s with some classic Bay Area morning fog that burns off by noon, pretty standard. Pretty chill. Nothing dramatic. But here's the part that the West Coast needs to hear. Even if nobody wants to Southern California, and much of the coast have been scarily dry this winter, and it's not getting better. Some areas haven't seen any meaningful rain or snow in over a month, and that dry streak is directly tied to the exact same jet stream pattern that's been dumping Arctic air on the east. See, the ridge of high pressure that's keeping the west warm and sunny is also acting like a giant wall that blocks any storm systems from getting through. So, while the weather feels incredible right now, it's quietly building a drought problem that could blow up later this spring. Phoenix, you're living the dream on paper highs around 57 to 66 Fahrenheit. Clear skies, low humidity, textbook Arizona winter. But that same dryness concern applies to you too. Denver, you're in this weird no man's land highs near 40 degrees. Dry for now, but that Arctic air could easily spill over the Rockies and knock your temps down 20 degrees by the weekend. So don't get too comfortable. And Seattle, it's Seattle highs around 45 to 50 with some light rain, which is basically just a regular Tuesday for you guys. Nothing to write home about. All right, now let's head south, because Texas is stuck in this bizarre middle ground where it's not freezing, but it's not warm either. And the forecast is actually sneaky complicated. Dallas tomorrow is looking at highs of only 45 to 50 degrees Fahrenheit, which is cooler than what early February usually brings, not brutal, but definitely not the warm southern vibes you'd expect. Overnight lows in Dallas drop to around 32 to 41 Fahrenheit. So you're right on that annoying freezing line where pipes start getting nervous and morning windshields get frosty. Houston is a little more comfortable at 56 to 66 degrees for the high with lows in the mid-40s. But there's a chance of some light rain or a passing shower tomorrow night. So keep that umbrella within reach. And real quick on Houston, remember that tornado that touched down just north of the city in Liberty County recently? That was directly connected to the same low pressure system driving this whole pattern. So just because the South isn't freezing doesn't mean it's sitting this one out. Atlanta, you're looking at highs in the mid-40s to low 50s under mostly cloudy skies. Manageable. But that wind is going to make it feel at least 5 to 8 degrees colder than whatever number you see on your phone. Nashville, you're in a tricky spot, highs around 38 to 44 degrees, with a shot of some light wintry mix overnight. So if you're commuting early, keep your eyes on the roads and give yourself extra time. Now, for the one spot that literally every single person north of Virginia is jealous of right now. Miami, the city that winter apparently forgot about. Miami tomorrow highs of 77 to 80 degrees Fahrenheit. Lows around 64 to 68 partly cloudy with a gentle ocean breeze. Basically the kind of day that belongs on a postcard. That's the kind of weather that makes half the country want to rage quit winter and book a one-way flight. And when it's -11 back in New York, who could blame them? But even Miami has a twist coming. Another push of cold air is expected to slide into Florida late this week. And while it won't be anything close to what the Northeast is dealing with, dropping from 80 to the low 60s is basically a crisis by Miami standards. All right, this is a good spot to pause, drop a comment right now with your city and what the temperature is where you are, because the responses on these are always wild. Last time we did this, somebody in Minnesota said it was colder in their backyard than it was on the surface of Mars. And somebody in San Diego literally replied with a sunset beach photo, same country, same day. And if there's a city or region you want me to do a full deep dive on in the next video, throw it in the comments, the more specific the better. because these targeted breakdowns have been blowing up lately. Alright, now let's pull way back and talk about the engine behind all of this, because all these city forecasts are just symptoms. The real story is the jet stream, and right now it's acting absolutely unhinged. The jet stream has buckled into what meteorologists call a high amplitude pattern, which in normal people terms just means instead of flowing across the country in a nice smooth line, it's making these massive roller coaster waves from north to south. When one of those waves pushes up, it creates a big ridge, basically a dome of warm air, and when it's parked over the west coast, like it is right now, it forces a deep trough on the other side that swings the door wide open for Arctic air to just flood straight down into the east. And that's exactly what's been happening week after week. The west bakes, the east freezes, and the gap between the two just keeps stretching wider like a rubber band that's about to snap. What makes this setup genuinely unusual is how stubborn it's been. This isn't a one-and-done cold front that blows through and pieces out. It's wave after wave after wave of Arctic air, and every single wave has the potential to collide with moisture and produce snow. And that brings us to the snow outlook for the next several days. The first system pushing through is lighter. Some snow showers across the Great Lakes. Maybe a coating to a couple inches in parts of Ohio, Pennsylvania, and West Virginia through Friday. But the second round rolling in this weekend is the one that should be on your radar. That's when heavier, more widespread snow becomes a real possibility across the Great Lakes, the Ohio Valley, and stretching into the Northeast. When you add it all up over the next 5 to 7 days, we're probably looking at a solid 3 to 7 inches stretching from Michigan and northern Wisconsin through Pennsylvania and into northern New England, and that's a pretty significant footprint. Some spots could push toward a foot, especially in the higher elevations and those notorious lake effect zones. Buffalo, Syracuse. You already know the drill. Get the shovels ready. Now, let me be straight with you. I'm not trying to hype this into something. We're not staring down a crippling blizzard or anything like that. At least not at this point. But for everyone who's been complaining that this winter has been all bark and no bite, all cold and no snow, well, congratulations. Mother Nature finally got the memo, and she's delivering. And here's the twist that's really going to throw people for a loop by mid-next week. That warm air from the west is going to surge all the way into the Midwest and Great Plains, and some spots could spike 30 degrees above average practically overnight. We are literally talking about going from record-breaking cold to potentially record-breaking warmth in the span of 7 days. That kind of swing doesn't happen often. And when it does, it usually means the atmosphere has something else cooking. And that's the thing. Don't let that warm-up fool you into thinking winter is packing its bags. Because historically, when we see these huge mid-February warm surges, they're almost always followed by another brutal cold snap, and sometimes even bigger storms before the month wraps up. So buckle up, because the second half of February is shaping up to be one of the most unpredictable stretches we've seen in a while, and we're going to be all over it. Now, real quick for the Super Bowl crowd, the game is this Sunday, and there's actually a chance of light to moderate snow across parts of the Ohio Valley and Northeast right around kickoff time. It's still a coin flip and might not amount to much, but picture this: wings on the table, game on the screen, and snowflakes coming down outside the window. That is peak February energy right there. All right, let's do a rapid-fire recap of what you need to know for tomorrow. Coast to coast, nice and clean. Northeast and mid-Atlantic, bitter cold. Highs near or below freezing. Dangerous wind chills after dark. Bundle up heavy and limit your time outside if you can. The Midwest, brutally cold with snow in the mix, especially around the Great Lakes. Be on guard for reduced visibility and icy roads on the morning drive. The South, a real mixed bag. Dallas is chilly. Houston is mild with a rain chance. Atlanta and Nashville are stuck in that gray, not cold enough for snow, but cold enough to be miserable zone. And Miami is just out here thriving in the upper 70s. The West, warm and dry everywhere you look. LA and Phoenix are living in a parallel universe where winter apparently doesn't exist. But that dryness is building quietly toward a real drought concern. And looking ahead, This weekend's Arctic blast is the headline. It's bringing the coldest air we've seen all week, plus the best shot at widespread snow across the entire eastern half of the country. So make sure you're tuned in for the next update. Because with a pattern this volatile, things can flip on a dime, and you really don't want to be the one caught off guard when it does. Last thing, drop your city in the comments. Tell me if you're riding with Team Snow or Team Sunshine, and throw out which region you want to see get the full deep dive treatment next time. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now's the time. Smash that button. Turn on notifications. Because the way February is shaping up, you're going to want every update the second it drops. Stay warm, stay safe out on those roads, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.